Have you ever wondered how someone so quiet managed to be heard by the entire world? How a player who never needed a shout became one of the strongest voices in modern football? And how someone who never tried to dominate the spotlight ended up reflecting the lives of millions who would never meet him? Lionel Messi's story defies the logic of spectacle, because in a sport that keeps getting louder, his legacy was built in silence. And with time, that silence spoke louder than any speech ever could. The question sounds simple, but it carries a deep contradiction. Why does Messi generate such an intense emotional bond across countries, cultures, and realities so far apart? This is not just admiration for talent. It is devotion, identification, the feeling that his journey somehow belongs to us as well. And the strange part is that this connection was never engineered. It wasn't sold, demanded, or promoted. It was never asked for. It simply happened. To understand it, you have to look beyond the player. Messi was never introduced as a traditional hero. He didn't arrive wrapped in epic language or dramatic narratives. He arrived quietly, shy, almost out of place in a football world that rewards noise, confidence, and spectacle. While others filled rooms with their voices, he filled the pitch with movement. While others chased cameras, he seemed to avoid them. And in that difference, something powerful was born, a sense of humanity. People don't see themselves in Messi because he feels unreachable. They see themselves because he feels fragile, because he doubted, because he failed, because he carried expectations that often felt heavier than his own body, because he was questioned, criticized, even when he seemed to be doing everything right. His story is not about a talent that was always celebrated. It is about a talent that had to wait, that had to insist, that had to live with public disappointment and uncomfortable silence. And for millions of people, that feels deeply familiar. Messi was never chosen from the beginning. He was not the system's favorite. He was not the perfect face of a sport that loves explosive personalities. He was the kid who left his country too young, the one who had to adapt, the one who grew up far from home while carrying a responsibility he never asked for. For years, his path was marked by waiting. Waiting for the moment. Waiting for validation. Waiting for the story to finally make sense. And many times, just when it seemed close, it slipped away. That's where the connection deepens. Because Messi represents something rarely celebrated: silent persistence. He didn't raise his voice when things went wrong. He didn't point fingers. He didn't build excuses. He just tried again, and again, and again. In a world obsessed with instant results, his story reminds us that some journeys are slow, that some rewards take time, and that slowness does not make them less meaningful. As modern football became louder and more theatrical, Messi chose the opposite path. Not as a strategy, but as instinct. He never tried to win people over. He never asked for love. He never demanded recognition. He allowed the bond to grow naturally over time. And that authenticity, in an era full of manufactured images, became something rare, something valuable, something real. Over the years, Messi stopped being just a player. He became a symbol of patience, of consistency, of quiet effort, of someone who understood that noise does not always build legacy. Sometimes silence carries more weight. His career turned into a metaphor. You don't need to impose yourself to transcend. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to appear invincible to inspire. And then comes the moment when all of that becomes visible. When Messi arrives in places where he never played, never lifted trophies, never belonged locally, and yet he is welcomed as one of their own. The scenes repeat themselves around the world. Crowded streets, shirts mixed with local flags, entire families traveling for hours just to see him pass. There's no anxiety for goals, no hunger for spectacle. There's something different. There's gratitude. People don't go to watch Messi play. They go to thank him. Thank him for sleepless nights in front of screen, for matches that became family rituals, for accompanying life processes, for being present in shared victories and collective disappointments, for being a constant in a world that changes too fast. That is the key many fail to understand. The love is not for what he did there. It is for what he gave over the years without even knowing it. Messi accompanied millions without realizing it. He was present in humble homes and big cities, in conversations between parents and children, in memories that need no explanation, in quiet early mornings, in contained celebrations, in shared frustration. He became part of people's emotional landscape. And when they finally see him, he doesn't feel foreign. He feels familiar. That explains why his figure resonates so deeply in cultures that value long roads, slow success, patience, and endurance. Places where nothing arrives quickly, where the path is demanding, where recognition takes time. Messi fits naturally into that mindset. He does not represent power. He represents resilience. He does not represent instant success. He represents process. And that message traveled farther than any global campaign ever could. In contrast, modern football often builds idols through provocation, noise, and constant attention. Figures designed to exist only while the spotlight is on. Messi chose something else. He let time speak for him. And time, in the end, is always the fairest judge. Because it cannot be fooled by short-term impact. It rewards what lasts. As years passed, his image did not fade. It deepened, because it was not sustained by a character, but by coherence. Messi was always the same, in victory and defeat, in applause and criticism. That coherence builds trust, and trust builds connection. A connection strong enough to cross generations. Today, Messi is no longer just part of football. He is part of emotional memory. He marks stages of life. He evokes moments. He represents a way of existing in the world. And here comes the final reflection. True greatness is not always measured in trophies or numbers. Sometimes it is measured in the ability to inspire without imposing, to unite without dividing, to create belonging without demanding it. What Messi built cannot be manufactured. It cannot be designed in an office. It cannot be forced. It only appears when the story is authentic, when the journey is real, when success does not erase humanity. That is why, even in distant places, he is not treated like a foreign star, but like someone who is already part of home. In the end, what people celebrate is not just a player. They celebrate a story. The story of someone who never gave up, someone who knew how to wait, someone who chose to speak through the ball instead of through speeches. And in a world that constantly demands noise, that choice feels like shelter. So now the question is yours. Do you think a connection like this can be manufactured? Or does it only exist when the story is real? Read the comments, leave yours, and let's keep talking about football. Because some stories cannot be explained with statistics. They are understood through emotion. And if you want to continue this journey, subscribe. Because after Messi, what remains is not just football. It is living history, and there is still much left to tell.